Hey everyone, and welcome to another weekly check-in blog. My name is Wiebke and I'm trying to get myself out of survival mode this year. So I set myself the goal of vlogging every weekend to see how I'm doing on my life goals and share with you what I'm currently reading. This weekend I have a lot of things I want to do concerning wrapping up March, wrapping up Q1 and figuring out what to do with Q2. And today I also want to finish the ebook I'm currently reading, Little Gods, and tomorrow I want to start something new. But first, let's go running. I'm still working on the new training plan and getting used to it. The first week is done. I had 2 slow runs and 1 interval speed run. And I did not do well on the interval speed run. I didn't reach the heart rate I was supposed to in the sprinting parts, and I couldn't sprint for the time that I was supposed to. So that's going to change for next week because I'm trying something different. But today it's a little bit more distance and slow. Slow is hard, but yeah. I'm currently listening to The Words of Radiance, the second book in the Stormlight Archive series, and it continues where the first book ended, The Way of Kings. But since I'm very confused about all of it, I cannot sum it up anyhow to really grasp what this story is actually about. It's enjoyable to listen to, but nothing much happens. I said for the first book that I would have DNF'd if I didn't want to finish or read all the Cosmere books, but it's mostly because I'm not interested in these epic kinds of stories. Going back to it now, I've listened to about 2-3 hours on 1.8 speed so far, and I am enjoying being back in the world. I was surprised by that as well. But I cannot really tell you anything about all the things because I feel it's all spoilers. So, yeah. It's going to be an exciting reading weekend. Yay! I completely overestimated myself again. It's lunchtime now, midday. And I came back from my run, sat down, had breakfast, and sat down to organize my things, do the March wrap-up preparation, look at the goals that I've set myself, and really look at my reading goals, my life goals, and everything. And now I'm tired again. I wanted to film the wrap-up at least today, maybe the goals video even, but I need a break. I keep going back to the fact that the main goal for this year is to get myself out of survival mode and have more energy again. And I was doing fine for a while, but March I really fell down of the good habits is not the right thing. I think I stuck to most of the good things I've done in the beginning of the year, but work has gotten kind of weird and things in March got a little bit off track, and I'm feeling it. I'm feeling that I didn't manage to do more movements on a day. In February I noticed that when I do 2 to 4 movement breaks, like 10-minute walks, I'm feeling better. I have more energy. But when I look at all my March tracking, there's 1 or 2 movements usually on a day. I always do 1. There's one form of exercise that happens on a day, even if it's just 10 minutes yoga. Something happens every day. But I notice that 1 is just for exercise. The energy bringing part would be something more like going for more walks, going for shorter walks, and I don't find the time. At work we were good with after lunch little walks for a while, but it's been a little bit stressful lately, so we skipped a lot of those. And this week I worked from home one day because I had a lot of things to deal with and not a lot of work, so I figured I can do the little work from home and spend the rest of the time that I don't have to work or don't have work that I can do, doing things for myself. That's the reality of things. I find it harder to stick to 8 hours work, mostly because I don't have work for 8 hours. And that's exhausting in a different way than having too much work that you cannot manage in 8 hours. Balance. We come back to the horrible balance thing. So what I noticed is that I'm noticing a lot of things that I didn't do well or didn't make the right choices when I was overwhelmed and overworked. And now trying to get my energy back, I find what helps, but I notice also that when life gets stressful, it's so hard to stick to those little things. Yes, a 10-minute walk or a 15-minute walk doesn't sound like much, but still, it's hard to put it in there. Something else I really cannot make stick is doing some little form of exercise. Like, I like the idea of doing yoga before I sit down for the evening and start my couch time. But I can't manage to put in 10 minutes there. Evenings in general are still challenging because I come home exhausted, and then, especially lately, I came home every day really exhausted and I didn't feel like doing anything. But to keep things going, I would have to do things. In March, I noticed also that due to the stress and my lack of appetite, I replaced dinner with chocolate a lot again. So that didn't feel so good. And I don't know, I am thinking of trying, what's that, Huel or something? Like liquid dinner shake things that might help with the dinner problem, because often after work I don't feel like cooking, I don't feel like eating, I don't feel like doing much, but I also need something to eat because I need more calories, because I haven't eaten enough throughout the day. So that's where my chocolate habit comes from, that I basically fill a calorie deficit. Probably too much, but yeah. Rambling about chocolate. I didn't want to talk about chocolate. I wanted to talk about the rest of the day. I had planned to film now, but that's not going to happen. I need a break first. So I'm wondering if I'll just finish reading Little Gods and do that here instead of going somewhere else. This is a rambly section. I'm sorry. Tired me always ends up rambling. And all of a sudden the day is gone. I was there following my plan of finishing my book reading when my friend called and she said, "We're buying flowers, pick me up in 5 minutes." So I spent the afternoon with my friend looking at flowers and eating cake and having coffee and just chatting. But since I wanted to finish Little Gods today, I took myself out afterwards. It was still light out and I read some more in the sun and I finished Little Gods. So let's talk about the book, and I try to do my best with the pronunciations, but my words are tumbling. And Little Gods is a story about a person who is absent in the book as an active character. She's a passive character that connects all the people, and I really enjoyed the idea behind this. We have a book that starts at the end, so the first chapter is called The End, and it's the birth of the daughter of our absent person, Sulan. Sulan is the character that connects all the people in the book, but she's not there. So we only get her story through other people. And the first chapter is told through the perspective, or from the perspective, of a night nurse in a hospital. It's Beijing, 1989, especially June 1989, and the protests at Tiananmen Square are about to turn bad. And this is the night the massacre happened, and we see everything through the night nurse, who doesn't really know what's happening outside, and we know that she is carrying around this child all day because the mother needs rest and things. And that's the first chapter, so we know that Sulan and the daughter are very important people, and the night nurse disappears. The next chapter we get told by the neighbor of Sulan, who is telling the story to the daughter of her mother and how life was when she came back to Shanghai after the birth and after her birth, and how life was. We learn a lot about Sulan, the physicist, and the life that she led in Shanghai. We learn a lot about the neighbor and her life and how life was in that time and for her. The next chapter moves to another character who tells us a lot about himself, and at first I didn't really know what he was doing there, why we get to have this male perspective that is really not interesting. The character was very dislikable, and towards the end it turns out that Sulan was a classmate of his, and I was like, okay, so we're there. The next chapter is from the perspective of her daughter, and there things pick up. We learn more about Sulan and the life that they're having, and also about the life in America after they left Shanghai. and we are picking up more and more of the story. Then the perspectives start over, but we have more information, so we get more out of these people and what they're telling us now. And we also find out more how they are connected and how life is. The last chapter is the beginning, where we find out how the stories end and what happens to the characters. And also, we know a lot more about Sulan, but that's not all that we know. We also learn a lot about China, about the time around the Cultural Revolution. We learn about rural places and how living in poverty is and how people want to escape it. And the way that these characters think, they represent some parts of the Chinese population and areas. They are not everything. It's not stock figure characters, but it gives you an insight of a few things and how life affected them. There's a lot of talk about past and present and time and how important time is, or how unimportant time is, or what time is in general. There's a lot where people want to change their past to go into a different future, and that's all connected to the characters, but also to the country as a whole, and the development and changes and how things evolved. I really liked this way of narration and storytelling. Nothing is really explained per se. We get a lot through the narration. We get a lot of facts, but we don't get all the facts. We have to bring some knowledge with us. We have to look up maybe some things where we feel like there's a gap and I need to find out something to understand this more. We are left in the dark a lot because the characters are left in the dark. We have a picture of Sulan by the end of the book, but we can never have a full picture because we don't know anything about Sulan from her own words. We don't know who she thought she was herself, other than what the other people saw in her and in conversations from her, how they interpreted her. And that is a lot of the story, that it's dealing with identity and evolving who you are and changing who you are and making yourself into a new person. I really enjoyed that. I really liked how it is mundane people living their lives and how we are part of other people's stories, but we can never be seen fully and understood fully. Highly enjoyed this. At the end, the last chapter, it got a little bit confusing as to, is this real, is this not real? It left a little bit the storytelling of reality and had some magical realism aspects, or rather mythical aspects, or fantastical aspects. I don't really know how to call it. But I was wondering, is this real now? Is this not real? There was a lot more jumping around to point out the confusion and instability of time and the merging of past, present, and future. So it was done on purpose, but it confused me a little bit. And so that part I thought maybe I would benefit from a second reading. In general, I think this book would really get better with a second reading or a reread, because you can see more of the points that were made and were clearer towards the end. The more you read of the story, the more you understood. So maybe going into it again with all of this knowledge can open up new avenues of understanding for the whole story. As it's 7 p.m. now, I am not going to do much anymore. I am looking forward to finishing up Potato Lab this weekend. I think the last 2 episodes are coming out today and tomorrow. And I'm also watching The Residence. I started that yesterday and that was entertaining. So looking forward to watch more of that. And I really enjoy the way that is filmed and narrated as well. That's what you can get me with. Different styles of narration that vary and are not just following the boring normal ways. Let's see what tomorrow brings. Sunday was overshadowed by exhaustion. I woke up completely depleted after a night of the most strangest dreams. I took a long time to get started and was just staring into nothingness. I got some laundry done and finally managed to get myself up and film and edit my March wrap-up, but I needed a lot of breaks. And then I tried to go outside. I made myself some lunch and went for a very short walk to a bench and had food in the sunshine. And then I walked home very slowly. And that was the day. It's 6 p.m. now and Nothing happened today. A lot of slow motion and the most basic things that needed to be done today. Thank you for watching and let me know how your weekend was.